All right, no time for chit-chat today. We're diving right into the news from the Faroe Islands. We've got Kringvarp, Faroe, and in.fo, so should be a good mix.
Yeah, it's a really interesting mix today. We've got everything from international defense pacts to some political drama brewing in the government.
Let's start with that defense pact.
Yeah.
In. Farfo's saying Germany and the UK signed something, and it looks like German aircraft could be patrolling near the Faroes.
Yeah, just south of the Faroe Islands. And they're calling this pact a bulwark, which I think really says it all.
Bulwark against what, though?
Well, obviously, Russia. Their presence in the region has been a growing concern, and this seems to be a pretty direct response, NATO flexing their muscles a bit.
Right, but what does all of this mean for people living in the Faroes?
Good question. Imagine German jets patrolling overhead. That's a big change, and not just symbolic. It could mean the Faroe Islands taking a much more active role in defense, maybe even hosting NATO assets. And then there's the economic impact. New infrastructure, jobs, the whole dynamic of the islands could shift.
Wow, I hadn't even considered that. So this pact, it's not just a military agreement, it's something that could reshape the entire region.
Exactly. And don't forget China. They've also been increasingly interested in the Arctic, so this pact could be about countering their influence too. It becomes this bigger geopolitical game, and the Faroe Islands, because of their location, they're right in the middle of it all.
Okay, so we've got international intrigue,
Hmm.
but in.fo is also reporting on some political drama within the Faroes government itself. Something about a potential no-confidence vote against Minister Ingalill Strom. What's the story there?
It all stems from a dispute between the Ministry of Environment and the National Audit Office. Now, the Landsstyresmyndigheden, their parliamentary committee, is deciding whether to bring in a special investigator.
A special investigator, wow. So
Uh,
what are they hoping to find?
Well, that's the big question. Those pushing for the investigation, they say it's about transparency and accountability. They want to know if any rules are broken, if funds were misused. But those against it, they see it as a political attack, an attempt to undermine Minister Strum and her party. They're arguing that the existing oversight systems are more than enough.
So it's a real showdown then. Transparency versus political maneuvering. It sounds like Faroes politics are heating up. What happens next? What does this mean for the average citizen in the Faroe Islands?
Well, it depends on what the investigator finds. If Minister Strum is forced to resign, it could shake things up big time, even trigger new elections. And then there's the question of public trust. This whole situation raises concerns about how the government handles environmental issues.
Okay, so we've got international power plays and political turmoil.
Oh.
Let's shift gears a bit now. Kringvarp Froya is reporting on the Faroes National Cultural Awards. What's happening in the world of Faroes art and culture?
Well, the big event was the awards ceremony. They held it at Varp in Klaksvik.
Varp, that incredible concert hall built into the cliffs.
That's the one. Pretty amazing setting for such a prestigious event. And they honored some truly talented individuals.
Tell me more. Who are the winners?
Well, the National Cultural Award, that went to Hani Bachartali. She's a visual artist, very well respected for her unique style and thought-provoking work.
I've seen some of her pieces. They're amazing. And what about the other awards?
Right, so Randy Ward, a celebrated writer, received the National Honorary Award. Her work has really helped bring Faroese literature to an international audience, and for the National Award for Young Artists, they chose Beinir Bergson. He's a musician, up and coming, doing some really innovative compositions.
Visual arts, literature, music, a real showcase of Faroese talent.
Absolutely. It just goes to show you, even on a small island nation like the Faroes, you have this vibrant cultural scene making its mark on the world.
It is fascinating how all these seemingly separate events, international agreements, political struggles, artistic achievements come together. They paint a really interesting picture of what's happening in the Faroe Islands right now.
And it emphasizes how connected everything really is. What happens in one part of the world, a defense pact signed thousands of miles away, or a political drama unfolding on a small island nation, it can have repercussions that ripple out across the globe.
And that brings us to a question for you, dear listener. How do you see these seemingly isolated events in the Faroe Islands connecting to the larger world stage? Think about that as we continue our deep dive into the news that matters.
It's amazing how these small events, they can really shake up a nation's political landscape. We were just talking about Minister Ingalill Strom and that potential no-confidence vote, and, well, things seem to be escalating.
Really, what's happening now?
Well, in Karaifa is reporting that the Landsstyresmyndigheden, that parliamentary committee, it looks like they're going to appoint a special investigator. They're going to really dig into this whole situation.
Wow, a special investigator. That's serious. It's not just political back and forth anymore.
Exactly. And it's really dividing public opinion. Those who support the investigation, they're all about transparency. They want accountability. They're saying an independent inquiry is the only way to get to the bottom of this, to know if there was any wrongdoing, if any rules were broken.
That makes sense. But what about the other side? What are the people who are against the investigation saying?
They're calling it a witch hunt, a politically motivated attack, plain and simple, trying to discredit Minister Strum and her party. They're saying the current systems in place, the oversight that's already there, it's more than enough to handle this.
So it's a classic political battle then. Transparency versus, well, maybe some power plays going on behind the scenes.
Okay.
I bet if you were living in the Faroe Islands right now, you'd be glued to the news, waiting to see what happens.
Oh, absolutely. And the results of this investigation, they could have a huge impact. I mean, if Minister Strum has to resign, it could set off a chain reaction, maybe even lead to new elections. And then, of course, there's the issue of public trust. This whole thing really raises questions about the government and how they're handling environmental issues.
Sounds like Faroe's politics are anything but boring.
Yeah.
But let's move on for a second. Inigjoff also had a report about an incident involving HZ buses in Haven. Do you know anything about that?
Oh, yeah. A woman was injured while riding one of the city buses.
Mm.
HD's taking it very seriously. They've already issued a statement, expressing their regret, and they're doing a full investigation to figure out exactly what happened.
Good here, they're taking it seriously. Public transportation, especially in a city like Haven, safety has to be the top priority.
Absolutely. And they're also reviewing all their safety procedures and putting new measures in place to try to prevent anything like this from happening again. They really are emphasizing passenger safety and well-being.
Well, that's reassuring. Now, let's go back to the Faroes National Cultural Awards for a moment.
Oh.
Kringvarp Faroe had some beautiful coverage of that ceremony at Varp. What a spectacular setting to celebrate the arts.
It really was. And the Minister of Culture, he gave a very moving speech. He praised the award winners and talked about how important art and culture are to shaping a nation's identity, how these individuals, through their creativity and passion, they inspire future generations. It was really powerful.
Okay, so let's talk about those winners. Hani Broccoli, Randy Ward, and Beinir Bergson. What makes their contributions to Faroese culture so special?
Well, Hani Bardath Lee, she won the National Cultural Award, and she's known for her artwork. It's visually stunning, very thought-provoking. Her work often explores nature, identity, the human condition. She really captures the Faroese experience in a way that people connect with.
Her work is incredible.
Yeah.
And what about Randy Ward?
She's a writer, won the National Honorary Award, and she's amazing. Her novels, her short stories, they've been translated into so many languages. She's really helped bring Faroese literature to a global audience. Her writing, it's known for its lyrical prose, her observations, and her ability to just transport you to the heart of the Faroe Islands.
It's so great to see Faroese literature getting recognition worldwide.
Mm.
And lastly, we have Beinir Bergson, who won the National Award for Young Artists.
Yeah, Beiner's a musician and a composer. He's really pushing the boundaries of Faroese music, blends traditional folk elements with modern sounds, and it creates this really unique experience. He's definitely one to watch, super talented.
It's inspiring to see such a range of talent being celebrated.
Yeah,
It speaks to the vibrancy of the Faroese cultural scene.
it really does, and it highlights just how important it is to support the arts.
Let's broaden our horizons now. Okay, so let's look beyond the Faroe Islands for a bit. What's happening internationally that's making news there?
Well, Kringvarp Faroe had a report on Boeing, the aircraft manufacturer. They're having some major financial issues.
Boeing, really? What's going on with them?
Yeah, they just reported a huge loss, like a staggering loss. 43 billion kroner.
Whoa, 43 billion, that's massive.
Hmm.
What's causing that kind of loss for a company like Boeing?
It seems like they're getting hit from all sides. The supply chains are still messed up from the pandemic, there are labor shortages, and the competition in the industry is fierce right now. It's a tough time to be in aviation, even for a giant like Boeing.
But Kringvarp Faroe and Indot Jonah are also reporting on the conflict between Israel and Hamas. That situation seems to be escalating.
It is, and it's just heartbreaking. The reports coming out of there are devastating, heavy casualties on both sides, and so many civilians caught in the crossfire.
So we've gone from military activity near the Faroe Islands to political intrigue within the islands, and then out to global economic concerns and the tragedy of this conflict in the Middle East.
And until next time, stay curious.